morning, students. Today we'll start with the third part, types of chemical reactions. If you haven't seen the part 1 and part 2, please see the part 1 and part 2 and then you will be able to follow this part clearly. From our understanding from part 1 and part 2, we now know that a chemical reaction is a process in which original substance lose their nature and identity and form a new substance with different properties. So, the chemical reaction involves the breaking and making of bonds between atoms to produce new substance. So, where is this making and breaking happening? It's happening within the reactants to form a new substance, that is the product. In this section, we will see the different types of chemical reactions. Under the headings decomposition reaction, displacement reaction, redox reaction, combination reaction, exothermic reaction, and endothermic reaction. Under decomposition reaction, we would be studying thermal decomposition, photochemical decomposition, and electrochemical decomposition. Under displacement reaction, we will study single displacement reaction and double displacement reaction. Under redox reaction, we will see what is reduction separately and what is oxidation separately. And under oxidation, we will study two concepts. One is corrosion and rancidity. Combination reaction. So when we take calcium oxide and water, add into water, what happens? So when calcium oxide is added into water, we get calcium hydroxide. Calcium hydroxide is also known as slaked lime. And in the process, heat is generated. So when you add calcium hydroxide into this and you feel the beaker from out, you see that the temperature of the beaker increases. So what is a combination reaction? A reaction in which a single product is formed from two or more reactants. So what is a combination reaction? A reaction in which a single product is formed from two or more reactants. Here in the previous example, calcium oxide reacts vigorously with water to produce slaked lime. And in the process, a large amount of heat is released. And also, we see a single product is formed. What is the single product? The single product is calcium hydroxide. So, we'll receive the equation. We have CaO, which is calcium oxide, also called as quicklime, which is in solid form. When it combines with water, it gives rise to CaOH2, which is calcium hydroxide, also called as slaked lime. In the process, heat is released. Slaked lime or calcium hydroxide is used for whitewashing. So, when we apply calcium hydroxide, it reacts with the carbon dioxide in air to form a thin layer of calcium carbonate on walls. For this layer to be formed, it will take around 2 to 3 days. And this calcium carbonate layer will give a shiny finish. So, what is the chemical formula for calcium carbonate? It is CaCO3. Yeah, capital O. It has to be a capital O. So let's see the equation. We have calcium hydroxide combining with carbon dioxide to give calcium carbonate plus water. This calcium carbonate is the one which forms the shiny finish on the walls. So you see the same example over here. Here they have taken calcium oxide plus water, which gives rise to calcium hydroxide. Since heat is released, this is an exothermic reaction. Exothermic reaction in the sense heat is released. Let's see other examples for combination reaction. 1. Burning of coal. Here, carbon combines with oxygen to give rise to carbon dioxide. Second example, formation of water from hydrogen and oxygen. Here, hydrogen combines with oxygen to give rise to water. So here, in both these equations, we see that two substances are combining to give a single product. So we call this type of reaction as a combination reaction. Exothermic reactions. Reactions in which heat is released along with the formation of products are called exothermic reactions. So the previous example, where calcium oxide combines with water to give rise to calcium hydroxide, was an exothermic reaction. Now let's see other examples. Burning of natural gas. Here, methane, CH4, methane combines with oxygen to give rise to carbon dioxide and water. Respiration. So the respiration that occurs in our body, where the glucose combines with oxygen to give rise to carbon dioxide and water, and in the process heat is released. So both these are exothermic reactions. We have a third example. The decomposition of vegetable matter into compost is also an example of exothermic reaction. Endothermic. So exothermic reactions are opposite to that of endothermic, right? So what are endothermic reactions? Reactions in which heat is absorbed along with the formation of products. In exothermic reactions, heat is released, whereas in endothermic reactions, the heat is absorbed. So we have example photosynthesis, where carbon dioxide combines with water to give rise to glucose and oxygen. Carbon dioxide combines with water to give rise to glucose and oxygen. Second example, sublimation of carbon dioxide. That is, dry ice, that is solid form of carbon dioxide, changes into gaseous state. Here, carbon dioxide, when it changes into gaseous state, heat is absorbed. Melting of ice. Both are H2O, similar to carbon dioxide, changing again into carbon dioxide, but melting of ice needs heat, therefore it is an endothermic reaction. Now let's come to the next one, which is decomposition reaction. Here, single reactant breaks down to give simple compounds. Repeat, single reactant breaks down to give simple compounds. So suppose you take ferrous sulfate, which is green in color, and dry heat in a tube, then we get ferric oxide, which is Fe2O3 plus sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide. So here what do we observe? Here a single reactant. On the left hand side you have only one reactant. On the left hand side you have only one reactant, but on the right hand side you have 1, 2 and 3 products. Correct? So this type of reaction where a single reactant breaks down to give more than one simple compound is called as decomposition reaction. So this is actual reaction, actual process that is occurring. This is not in your NCERT. I've given this just for information. Okay. So you can observe the diagrams over here for understanding thermal decomposition. Thermal means heat, right? Thermal decomposition. So for thermal decomposition, we will see this example where lead nitrate is heated. Here you can see lead nitrate is a white compound. When this is dry heated, you get the lead oxide over here, and then you can see here some fumes that are released, which are the fumes of nitrogen dioxide. These brown fumes which are there, they are of nitrogen dioxide, and in addition to this, oxygen is also released. So this is a thermal decomposition because the decomposition reaction is carried out by heating. Decomposition reaction is carried out by heating. Now we'll come to photochemical decomposition. So here you have a silver ring, right? A silver ring is placed and you have photochemical decomposition. This AgCl, that is silver chloride, is a crystalline solid. It's a white crystalline solid, right? So when it is exposed to sunlight, it changes its color to gray or black. Now here in this diagram, you can see a ring is placed. So in the place where the ring is placed, there is no sunlight reaching over there. So when you remove that ring, you see that the place where the ring was placed, the silver chloride's color has remained as white. But in the places where the silver chloride was exposed to sunlight, it has changed to gray color. So what is happening here? Silver chloride in presence of sunlight is breaking down into silver and chlorine. So you have this equation where 2AgCl, which is a solid, in presence of sunlight breaks down into silver and chlorine. Similar example, you have silver bromide, which decomposes in presence of sunlight to give silver and bromine. So where is this used? This is used in photography. The next type of decomposition reaction, which is electrolysis. Electrolysis. Lysis means breakdown. Electro means with the help of electric current. The decomposition reaction that occurs with the help of electric current is called as electrolysis. Now here we have the example where water is broken down into its components, hydrogen and oxygen, with help of electricity. Here in this experiment, we see that the hydrogen liberated is double than that of oxygen. Why? Because here two hydrogen molecules, right? Two hydrogen molecules are combining with one molecule of oxygen. So the amount of hydrogen that is liberated is double of that of oxygen. So how do you test for hydrogen gas and oxygen gas, which you've studied in your lower classes? When a burning splinter is brought near the mouth of liberated gases, the burning splinter extinguishes near hydrogen. That is, when you bring a burning splinter or a flame near hydrogen, it goes off with a pop sound. Remember, in it we have done. And when you bring a burning splinter to oxygen, it continues to burn. So this is the experimental setup for electrolysis of water. Here you see two electrodes are placed in a mug of containing water. We know that pure water by itself is a poor conductor of electricity. So what do? So that water starts conducting electricity, we add a few drops of sulfuric acid. So when sulfuric acid is added, water starts conducting electricity, and water, that is H2O, breaks down into hydrogen and oxygen. So here you see the hydrogen gas that is formed is more when you compare to that of oxygen. So this is an experimental setup for your observation. And here you can see the bubbles that are released when electricity is passed. These bubbles are nothing but your oxygen gas over here and hydrogen gas over here. From our understanding till now, we have realized that decomposition reactions require energy for breaking down the reactants. This energy may be in form of heat, light, or electricity. Thus, reactions in which energy is absorbed are also known as endothermic reactions. Previously, we have seen heat. So here we have a general definition. Reactions in which energy is absorbed are known as endothermic reactions. When solid barium hydroxide is mixed with ammonium chloride in a beaker, you observe that the temperature suddenly drops. So temperature is dropping. So what kind of reaction it is? It is an endothermic reaction. In this reaction, barium chloride is formed along with ammonia and water. Now we come to the next type of reaction, which is displacement reaction. Here, a more reactive element displaces a less reactive element from a compound. A more reactive element displaces a less reactive element from a compound. So you have here copper sulfate, into which is dipped the iron nail. So the copper has got deposited onto the iron nail after a while. And you can see the color change in the solution. Here, since copper is lost, the earlier blue color has become lighter blue. I hope you can see, earlier dark blue color has become lighter blue. So what is the equation for this reaction? Fe, that is your iron nail. Fe combines with copper sulfate, which is a blue color solution, to give iron sulfate plus copper. Here, iron, a more reactive element, has displaced copper, a less reactive element, from copper sulfate solution. So this is your textbook diagram explaining the same concept. We have another reaction where Pb, that is lead, combines with copper chloride to give lead chloride and copper, right? Now here copper is replaced by lead, right? So it is a displacement reaction. Similarly, we have another example where zinc replaces copper. So when copper sulfate and zinc are combined, we get zinc sulfate and copper. Here, this copper is replaced by zinc. Therefore, we get here zinc sulfate. Double displacement reaction. Reactions in which there is exchange of ions between reactants is called as double displacement reaction. So, if we take sodium sulfate and add to barium chloride, both in aqueous form, we get a barium sulfate which is solid form, and NaCl, which is in the aqueous form. So here two aqueous solutions are reacting to give a solid and an aqueous form. The next reaction, precipitation reaction. Reactions that produce precipitate. So what is a precipitate? In a reaction, that is, where the reaction mixture, the reactants are in liquid, if a solid is formed, then we call that insoluble solid as the precipitate. Now here we have the example, sodium sulfate, when it combines with barium chloride, it gives barium sulfate, which is in solid form. See, this is in aqueous. Previously I have told you what is aqueous, right? So this is in aqueous form, but here you get a solid form, which is nothing but your precipitate. And you have NaCl, which is in aqueous form. That is, your NaCl is dissolved in the water, whereas your barium sulfate, it doesn't dissolve, it forms a solid compound known as precipitate. So precipitate is an insoluble solid that emerges from a liquid solution. Such reactions in which there is exchange of ions between reactants are called as double displacement reactions. Let's now see another example for double displacement reaction which forms a precipitate. Here you have lead nitrate, which combines with potassium iodide to give rise to potassium nitrate, and in the process there is a precipitate which is formed, which is lead iodide. So here, to understand double displacement reaction, we'll see this diagram. You have here the lead molecules and the nitrate molecules. And here you have the second reactant, which is potassium iodide, and here you have the potassium molecule and the iodide molecule. But when the precipitate is formed, you see here the lead iodide forms, which is a solid. So this is how your reaction looks. Here you have the lead nitrate in this place, and we are pouring into this potassium iodide. And when these two combine, you have this yellow precipitate. What is the yellow precipitate? It is the lead iodide. So what do we observe in double displacement reaction? We see that two compounds switch their elements to form two new compounds. So if we have to write a general equation, it would be AB compound reacts with CD compound to give rise to AC compound plus BD compound. So here these two combine and these two combine. Oxidation, reduction, reactions. Oxidation. Oxidation is a process in which oxygen or an electronegative element is added. So electronegative element means any element which will attract electrons. Okay, so what is actually oxidation? Oxidation means not only the addition of oxygen, but the addition of any electronegative element which will attract the electrons. Electronegative elements, for example, you have fluorine. So you can also define it as a process in which hydrogen or an electropositive element is removed. And we should remember that in oxidation, there is loss of electrons taking place. For example, if you take hydrogen, when it combines with water, right? Hydrogen, when it combines with water, hydrogen, when it combines with oxygen, oxygen takes electrons from hydrogen. That means hydrogen is getting oxidized, right? So this term oxidation came because of this. But when we say oxidation, it means that there is loss of electrons. For example, you take hydrogen and fluorine, which is also a electronegative element. So when you take hydrogen and fluorine, what do you observe? Hydrogen has a valency of 1, right? But fluorine atom has 7 electrons in its outermost shell, but it can take 1 electron rather than losing 7 electrons. So what it does, it takes 1 electron from the fluorine to reach its octet structure, right? So here the fluorine is a negative element which is taking electrons from hydrogen. So we say oxidation is a process in which loss of electron takes place. So this is the right definition for oxidation. Now let's say reduction. Reduction is a process in which hydrogen or an electropositive element is added. So here electropositive element means something that will lose electrons, right? There it has the ability to attract and here it will lose. So it can also be defined as a process in which oxygen or an electronegative element is removed. So when we say reduction, it doesn't mean that only oxygen is removed or only hydrogen is added, but it also means that any electropositive element can be added or any electronegative element can be removed. Thus, the right definition would be reduction is a process in which gain of electrons occur. Now you have this example where copper combines with oxygen to form copper oxide. This is also known as cupric oxide. Cupric oxide. So here copper plus oxygen giving rise to copper oxide. Oxygen is being added, therefore it is an oxidation reaction. Now reduction, you have the example where this cupric oxide is added, that is hydrogen is added to cupric oxide to form copper plus water. Now redox reaction. Reactions in which oxidation and reduction take place simultaneously are called as redox reactions. Now if you see this example here, copper oxide, that is cupric oxide, is reduced to copper, that is oxygen is removed, right? And here for hydrogen, oxygen is added, therefore it is an oxidation reaction. Hydrogen is added to water to oxygen to form water, therefore it is an oxidation reaction. Let me erase this. So what do we observe? The copper oxide is losing oxygen and it is being reduced. The hydrogen is gaining oxygen and is being oxidized. In other words, one reactant gets oxidized and other gets reduced in the redox reaction. Such reactions are thus called oxidation reduction reactions or redox reaction. Let's see other examples for redox reaction. That is the reaction where oxidation and reduction are occurring simultaneously. Now here you have zinc oxide which combines with carbon to give zinc and carbon monoxide. Here carbon is oxidized to carbon monoxide. Why? Because oxygen is added. Here zinc oxide is reduced to zinc. So from previous understanding what we know, when oxygen is removed we call it as reduction reaction. So here oxygen is removed, therefore we say zinc oxide is reduced to zinc. We have another example where manganese oxide combines with hydrochloric acid to give manganese chloride plus water plus chlorine. So here HCl is oxidized to Cl. So what is happening here? Hydrogen is lost. Hydrogen is lost. Since losing of hydrogen is also called as oxidation reaction, here we will say HCl is oxidized to Cl2. MnO2 is reduced to MnCl2. That is manganese oxide is reduced to manganese chloride. That means here we see loss of oxygen. Since oxygen is lost, we say it as a reduction reaction. So in general, we can say that one reactants get oxidized while the other gets reduced during this reaction. Effects of oxidation and reaction in everyday life. Corrosion. The phenomenon wherein metals react with substances around such as air, moisture, acids is called as corrosion, and the metal that is reacting is said to be corroded. Iron articles when new are shiny but they get coated with reddish brown powder, and this is said to be rusting, and we have a new term here, corrosion. Copper and silver also get tarnished. Tarnish means they lose the shine. So what happens when corrosion occurs? There is damage to the iron, and therefore a lot of money has to be spent to replace the corroded metals. Corrosion can be prevented by using paints on iron articles and by galvanization, that is coating. So here you have the images of iron, the silver spoon and tarnished spoon, copper vessel and tarnished copper vessel. Effects of oxidation reaction in everyday life. Under this we'll study corrosion and rancidity. Rancidity. Rancidity is oxidation of fats or oils. Rancidity results in bad smell and bad taste of food. So if you have left your chips packet or any kind of oil fried items for long, you see some kind of bad taste and smell. This is because of oxidation of fats which results in the smell, and this is known as rancidification. So what do they do for your chips? You can see that it is always filled with air. It is filled with nitrogen to prevent the oxidation of fats. So with this we have completed our chapter 1. Thank you.